What's up, everybody? Today I'm doing an inspection on an 11-year-old home. Now, in a lot of my videos, you'll see me doing a new construction home inspection. This one being 11 years old. I do them all, do old, new, but this one being 11 years old, it's probably going to yield a few different things than what we're used to finding on my new construction home inspections. 11 years is at that mark where all of the major systems, if they haven't been replaced already, they're probably starting to show a lot of wear and a lot of age. Let's head outside first and see what we can find. So when I get on the front porch here, one of the first things I do is I check the electrical receptacle. And so I'm going to grab my tester here and we plug the tester in and the green light comes on here. So that means that it's properly wired. Now I've got a test button for GFCI over here. So I'm going to push it to see if it's GFCI protected. And if it is, that green light will turn off. So we hit it and nothing turns off. And so this outlet is not GFCI protected. Now while we're still here on the front porch, I want to take a look around at the joints where the siding or the door jambs or anything, the brick mold all comes together with the brick veneer. And what we're seeing around the door is that we have some deteriorated sealant. And so, you know, we've got areas like this that are open. This is really just a homeowner maintenance item. It's not really a red flag issue, but what it comes down to is not always a red flag issue. It's really about the discovery. Okay. And so whoever's buying this house may not know anything about what's going on with it, and their concern level may be vastly different than somebody else's. And so we put everything in the report, big or small, and let them know what's going on. Right now, of course, we've got this outlet that's not GFCI protected, and we're missing some sealant around the door. And as we move out here a little bit, we also see some trim up against the brick veneer here that's also missing some sealant. This is going to be a trend probably for the rest of the inspection, because if it's deteriorated in one area, it's going to be deteriorated everywhere else. So really overall, every little penetration or every area where we've got siding meeting up with a brick is probably going to need some renewed sealant. Now, one other thing that I'm noticing over here in this area is that we are missing a piece of kick-out flashing right here. So basically, where the roof comes down and the sidewall continues, then we want a piece of flashing to kick water away from the wall. So you can see we have the roof coming down and the sidewall continues and we have nothing, so that water can come down that roof line there, and you can even see it's discolored some of the siding right there. And it's going to continue to come down here. You can see some water stains where it comes down the siding, and it'll cause deterioration. This is wood siding, and so it'll cause that to deteriorate a lot faster than necessary unless we put something up there called a kick-out flashing that'll move water away from the siding and keep that problem from happening. Moving down the structure, I see what is a termite bait station here. As a state licensed wood destroying insect inspector, I always want to make sure I'm doing a wood destroying insect inspection today. So we want to notate that we have had some, what we're going to call this is previous treatment. I haven't really checked the property to see if we have any termite activity yet. That's going to continue throughout the process, but right now we just want to mark that they at least have attempted to treat. This could be preventative. We don't really know. They could have had a problem, and so they're putting some bait stations down there to try to stop it before it becomes a bigger problem. We're not sure, so it's going to go in the report. All right, over here I see another bait station, but I also see a corner pop. And this is definitely something that I want to take a little closer look at. So a corner pop in the foundation is not necessarily a structural defect. In most cases, it's not. I've got some videos on why this happens. Basically, there's a bond breaker material that is between the brick ledge, which is the foundation, and the brick and mortar, and that is there to keep those two materials from touching. Oftentimes in the corner, they cut that material to go around the corner. We got a little bit of brick and mortar touching the foundation. Things expand and contract, and you get a little bit of a pop off here. This thing, not really that big of a deal. It's not a big deal structurally, but it can be an entry point for insects, especially wood destroying insects. And so we definitely, it wouldn't be a bad idea to seal this up, but I wouldn't do it with concrete because it's just going to happen again. But yeah, you can see like sometimes it'll even shear right off like this. And so this one has come completely off. I don't see any wood destroying insects in there right now, and so that's good. But yeah, I definitely think that we should either seal that back up there or really probably just remove it and seal the area where they can get in. Moving on here to the garage, we got a couple of electrical receptacles out here, so I want to do the same thing I did on the front porch and test them to make sure that they're working properly. We got a green light, so that's working properly. We want to test this one too. It's also wired properly. So then we go and we test the GFCI function, and again, we've got no GFCI protection on these, and so far we have no GFCI protection on the house whatsoever. Now looking along the front of the house, we've got the garage open here. You can see that we have some deteriorated sealant where the trim meets up with the brick over here with the garage. This again, like I say, is going to be probably throughout the entire property. And as I look up, I can even see some around some windows and stuff too. And then along the front here, this roof, it's looking pretty aged. I'm guessing it's probably original 3-tab shingle, low quality. And judging by the age of the house, I bet this is probably an original roof, which means it's getting near, not necessarily over, but getting near the end of its lifespan, depending on what it's been through. And then you can see some lifted flashing across the front here. This can be an area where wind-driven rain can get up underneath that flashing and find its way into the property. So we definitely want a roofer to come out here and take a look at this, but we're going to see what else we can find roof-wise. Now, one more thing I noticed on this side of the house was that we have a clean out, the main plumbing clean out here. And as you can see, it has been damaged. Now, again, this isn't a clean out cap is not that big of a deal. It's not that hard to get off, it's not that hard to put on, but it's about discovering the problem and letting the buyer know what issues exist. Things can get inside that drain line and can clog up the drain line. Of course, we're going to test the plumbing and see what happens today. If we come out here and we see a bunch of water coming out of this broken cap, then we know we've got a clogged drain line. But today we discovered this, and maybe it's just the replacement of a cap, and that's great. And it's just a low cost maintenance item that needs to get taken care of. Or we might have something bigger. We'll just have to keep testing and find out. Coming down this side of the house, and I noticed the gas meter. Now, I always want to go up here and make sure that we have the proper gas pipe bonding going on here. But what I'm seeing here is somebody has wrapped a bunch of tape and insulation around this. All I'm saying, folks, is don't do this, okay? This pipe does not need to be insulated. It's not a water pipe. It is not carrying liquid. It does not require insulation. I have pulled it back a little bit, so I was able to verify that we actually have the bond that I'm looking for with the gas piping and the electrical system, the grounding system. And so we got that going on, and that's great, but don't do this, okay? But let's talk about something a little bit more serious, okay? So what I'm seeing along here is some extremely dry soil. So dry, in fact, that there is a large space, probably about an inch of space between the soil and the foundation grade beam itself. So what that means is that the soil has completely dried out. There's a lot of clay probably in the soil. It's completely dried out, and we can't guarantee that it is going to properly support the foundation in the shape that it's in. This is how some foundation problems start. I'm not saying this house is experiencing foundation problems, but what I'm saying is this condition right here, if left unattended, if left unwatered, if this is not maintained, this will lead to a failure of the foundation and will lead to problems and a lot of expensive repairs. So when I'm getting a house ready to be inspected, when I go through and turn on all the lights and everything, I also turn on all exhaust fans, including the range exhaust. And I have this one on today, but it doesn't appear that any exhaust is coming out of it. And I know that I turned it on, and I turned it on high. So I'm going to go inside, I'm going to check it out and see if I can figure out what's going on. All right, so I'm over here now. You can probably hear it running. And what I've noticed is we do obviously have, you can see the vent that is going outside. It's actually going above the cabinet and headed outside. But these units can be installed where they vent up and out through there, or they can be recirculating, where they can come up through here and just recirculate throughout the house through a filter. And this one, I can feel tons of air coming out of the top of it. So obviously this one's set up to recycle air or recirculate whatever you're cooking, and everything's going to go through a filter and then be redistributed throughout your house. This is just not necessary because we actually have the piping installed to sit it outside. So I think this just needs to be reconfigured. It definitely should have been installed differently because this is not an ideal situation considering we already have vent pipe to go outside. I'm going to try a little experiment here to see if you hear this, and just so that you know that there's a lot of air coming through there. I'm going to take my microphone and see it. I just played the audio back, and yeah, you can definitely tell. All right, let's find some other stuff. So I'm just about to wrap up the exterior perimeter inspection of this house, but I want to talk about something that was actually done well. I don't get to say this very often, but here above this window, they have put flashing above the trim, which is great. It's supposed to be there. And not only that, but they have left space between the flashing and between the siding so that if water gets back there, it will then flow over the flashing and out where it's supposed to go and not get dammed up and go back inside the house and cause damage to the header or whatever, or go somewhere it's not supposed to go. This they've actually done right, so good job. Actually, I may have spoken too soon. Looks like they actually did seal the flashing to the siding, only the sealant has deteriorated, so we have a very, very small opening here, but that's not actually what we're looking for. We're looking for a 1/8 inch gap, a minimum, between the flashing and the siding. So, yeah, maybe not so much of a good job after all. However, this door here looks like the trim's been replaced. I'm sure there was water damage in this area. And this one, they did wrong. You can see here that they have sealed the flashing to the siding. And this is not going to allow water to get out. Instead, it's going to push it back somewhere we don't want it to go. Now, usually, I'm a walk on the roof type of guy. But sometimes the design of the structure means that I've got to fly a drone. And that was the case today. We've got a few shingles on this roof that have been subject to some wind damage. You can see on the left side of the screen here, one of them's been flipped over. We got one over here on the right side of the screen. And as I flip around to the front of the house, you'll see we even got a few more over here. Judging by what I saw at ground level, this really isn't a surprise. You might have already noticed in this video, you hear a certain sound throughout this house. Okay, cue the jokes, right? All right, but seriously, smoke detectors are important, okay? And these, not only are the batteries dead or going dead, but these smoke alarms are 11 years old. Smoke alarms, they have a lifespan of about 10 years. So these are already past their life expectancy. So at this point, the best thing to do, instead of wasting money putting batteries in them, is to replace them. Now, let's talk about where you need them. Currently, the code states that you need a smoke detector in every bedroom and just outside of every bedroom. But there's a bigger problem with this house. Currently, this house doesn't have any carbon monoxide detectors. The code goes on to state that you need not just smoke detectors in every bedroom, but you also need a carbon monoxide detector in direct vicinity of all sleeping rooms. And so this house isn't up to the current standard. And of course, in a house that has gas-fired appliances like this one and an attached garage like this one, not only is it recommended by code or required by code, but as a home inspector, I can't recommend this enough. So what I really think you should do is come through here and replace all the smoke detectors in this house. They're only going to cost you about 20 bucks a piece. And in the hallways where we have the carbon monoxide, or where we have right now smoke detectors, replace those with a dual purpose smoke and carbon monoxide detector. Those are going to cost you about 50 to 70 bucks, but you only need a couple of those. In my opinion, this investment is totally worth it just for the added safety. You and your family are going to be living in this house and you want to know if a fire breaks out. It's not very much money. Get those things replaced. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is thermal pane windows. So what's that? Okay, so that's basically two panes of glass and it is sealed together with an argon gas in between the panes. This is what gives the window its insulating qualities. It gives it an R value, and so that's an insulated window. When that seal, and at times they do become compromised, and the gas starts to escape, it then loses some of its insulating qualities. Now, I don't really think you're just going to be hemorrhaging energy out of this window that's lost its seal. However, it certainly can be a point where some energy can get lost. But the biggest thing really is cosmetic to me. If you look close at this window, you can see a discoloration. Honestly, you don't even have to look close. You can see it from far away. You can see this discoloration. It is in between the panes. It does not wipe off, no matter if you get on the inside or the outside. It is in between the panes. And sometimes on some days you'll see some moisture develop in between the panes. This certainly won't get any better. In fact, it will probably only get worse. There is a solution, however. You don't have to replace the entire window, but you do need to replace just that piece of double paned glass. So that can come out, they can put in a new piece of glass, problem solved. This is the only window I've found on this house like that. Oftentimes I walk into houses and find a whole bunch of them. Luckily, this is the only one today. All right, everybody. While I have a little inspecting left to do, that's all I'm going to put in this video. Matt with Texas Edge Home Inspections, give me a call so I can inspect your next house and be on the lookout for the next video. Please subscribe. Stay tuned.